Midway ISD Evening of Jazz, one of the three greatest evenings that we have this year. All of the three evenings of jazz are the greatest nights that we have. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We are the River Valley Middle School Jazz Panthers. This is always an exciting concert because I feel like in the jazz band, all the bands we see lots of progress from them, you know, but especially the jazz band. It seems like for whatever reason, schedules and all that stuff, people really only sometimes get 1 year in there or a year and a half, and so they start out like knowing nothing or very little, and then they get better and better and better. And by the time this concert comes around, they are doing very, very well, and then they have to leave, which is very, very sad. So raise your hand if this is your last year in middle school jazz band. Isn't that sad? That's awful. That's horrible. But they're doing amazing. You're going to be very impressed. So our kind of theme for the very first concert was just learning the swing style, learning the blues. That was our thing. The second one was a lot of Latin charts, a lot of different kind of styles. And then for the third one, we have two objectives. One is to get funky. We're going to be a little funky up here. And then also to kind of get them ready for the next step. So all these charts are advanced middle school charts and high school and beyond type of charts. And so you'll see a little bit later, some adults are going to come, because the more advanced the chart, the more important all the parts are. And so I found a couple people to volunteer and fill out the sections, so we have full trumpet and trombone section. But anyways, we're going to get started with one just right off the bat. Oh, the other thing is they're all closers. Like, you know how you pick your high energy tune? And since it's the last concert of the year, every single one of these could be a closer. So buckle your seatbelts. We're going to start out with Honk. Told you, they're all closers, they're all closers. Ladarian back there on those high notes. And we got a couple of people, and he's one of them, battling through illnesses to be here, so thank you all, and thank you for making it. Yeah, and then Diego on the low notes. So we got Yeah, one of the things I love about this group is that everyone really has embraced improvisation. So like I said, like the other concerts, this one was the one that anyone could take a solo. And so you saw we ended up, all right, just go find a microphone and go play a song, because they all wanted to play, so that's awesome. All right, and then how about our two assistants with the microphone placements, Mr. Brown and Mr. Bellis. These guys are rocking. All right, we're going to get to go on. Speaking of that, we've had the fortune of having an excellent student teacher this semester, Mr. Bellows. And so with very little input, maybe just a little input from me, they both picked a tune and they're gonna go ahead and do their tunes. So this is Mr. Bellows with Dad Dare. was Aiden Washington, saxophone. USSD on the piano. Ivy Gerber on the boom. And then Bliss totally rocking the drum set. All right, we're going to continue on with another tune. Obviously, I guess that goes without saying. This is another tune. This one actually we played with, I direct the Waco Jazz Orchestra, and we played this with the Waco Jazz Orchestra. So this was an adult tune, and it's a really cool one, but I thought they could handle it. And so we're going to feature Parker York on tenor with a groovy tune entitled Happy. And it's not that happy, it's not that one. Oh. Not that one. No offense to that song, it's a good song. One, two, 1, 2, 3. than that other happy song, I think. There's just a little bit more. Yeah, this will be the last one that I'm directing. I'm going to welcome Mr. Brown up here in a second. So I just want to say a couple thank yous, and then he'll say some more thank yous, I'm sure. But I just wanted to really, really thank y'all and the students, especially the 8th graders, but just really everybody, to even be able to think, hey, you know what about this piece? For this group, for a middle school group, it's like, that's crazy. It's been an incredibly fun semester. I guess, you know, I don't want to, each group has its own special thing, right? But this has been a particularly special group, and so I've really enjoyed working with them. So thank you all so very much for your work. I'm very proud of you. All right, let's give them a running joke that I like to say is that this is my favorite class and my least favorite because I love jazz music so much. So when they're bad, it's real bad, like personally to my soul. But this is the opposite. Like every day is so much fun, especially at this point of the year. And so I'm really sad to start over. But raise your hand if you're going to be in the jazz band, this jazz band, next year. All right, we got a few. All right, without further ado, I'm going to welcome Mr. Brown back to the stage.
Everybody. This is our last chart. It's called Open and Shut Case by Paul Baker. If anyone's got the opportunity to meet Paul Baker, he's very intense, just like this chart. So I really hope that you enjoy it. This is Open and Shut Case by Paul Baker. Thank you guys so much for coming out. And stay tuned for the next band, Midway Middle School Jazz Ensembles. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Midway Middle School Jazz. This is going to be the best concert that they have played all year. I have no doubt in my mind. We've spent a lot of time since, wow, that was March. Okay, a lot of time since March just working on all of the things that they needed to do to be able to pull off a spectacular concert. We did so many rhythm drills, so many rhythm drills. We're doing absolutely fantastic. We're using microphones for the first time on solos. We're feeling brave. This is a really solid concert you're about to hear. First song is a fun one I found, featuring soloists Jackson Posey and Liam Nelson. It is called Unleash the Chicken. I don't think they meant to do this, but that is by far the fastest we've ever played that song. Good job, you guys. That was super speedy. So you may notice that we have a lot of fedoras going on. They have been begging me all year to wear fedoras. I told them they could today. So we've got our fedora aura going on. Yeah. All right, we've had a student teacher with us. She's only been with us since spring break, but she volunteered to do a song with jazz band. She taught this one almost entirely by herself. This is Miss Alonzo. We're doing a nice little blues tune called Blues in Hoss Flat. I don't know what key Hoss Flat is. Blues in Hoss Flat by Miss Alonzo.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much, Ms. Alonzo. We have really appreciated you teaching this group. And our final one one because I like to throw a fun one at them for each concert cycle. This is All Star, yes, from the movie Shrek. That song, I forgot to mention, featured once again Jackson Posey and also Julian Schutz. All Star will feature Asher Benton on trumpet and Jackson Robinson on trombone. I should have mentioned Ramiro Salazar on piano with a little solo on that one. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed hearing the kids, hearing their growth throughout the year, because the growth out of this group is so good. Raise your hand if you are in 8th grade and will not be with us next year. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Thank you. All right, please stay tuned. We're gonna get these guys off the stage and the high school jazz ensembles will start coming up. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi. Welcome to tonight's jazz concert. It is our last one of the year, which is crazy that has happened so fast. But we are very excited to show you what we've been working on for the last, I feel like it's been less than a month since we were last here. There just hasn't been that much time, but we've been really excited to put together 3 really interesting, really different charts for you guys. So we are going to start off with our first chart, which is Alone Together. Arrangement might come off. It is from a musical called Flying Colors, and it's been recorded by Tony Bennett, Bill Evans, and Miles Davis, so a lot of really big names. So we're really excited to get started with this. You will hear Noah Shaw over there on our upright bass begin this chart, which is really exciting. And we have a soloist also, Alf Gerber, over here on guitar. We hope you enjoy Alone Together. I forgot to mention we also had a little solo there at the end from Jeremiah LaBabbit over there on the tenor sax. Awesome, so our next one is Gibraltar. This one is a real challenge because the drum set player back there, Jake Brown, he gets to do this really exciting thing where he switches styles between the swung style, which you heard on our last chart, and this more straightforward, straight eighth note, like samba style. So it kind of switches back and forth constantly. You will hear it happen. Like sometimes it's every 4 measures, which is crazy. So you'll hear him, and that's like speaks a lot to a lot of the work that he's done. And then the kids have also had to adjust to that. So you'll hear a solo again from Jeremiah LaBabbit over there on tenor sax, and Eli Ryden back behind me on the bari sax. They also have to switch styles in the middle of their solo, which is really exciting. So they get to switch back and forth between that samba style and that swung style as well. And so we're going to go ahead and get going. You'll hear, again, like I said, Jeremiah and Eli, and this is Gibraltar. All right, before we start our last tune, I want to say a big thank you just to everyone. Like I said, this is our last concert, so this is a big deal. I keep telling the kids this is the last time this ensemble will exist like this on stage, which when you put it that way is a little bit sad, because the ensemble looks a little bit different every year. And so we're just looking forward to, next year and all that stuff, but wanting to take a moment and reflect and really appreciate from this year. I'm so grateful to you parents, to the students, just for sharing your time with us, not just at tonight's concert, but like every day they come in 7th period, they have to set up and tear down the room every day. Like they put a lot of work into what we do, and I want to make sure to be really grateful not only to them in our classroom, but out loud in front of you, because they do a lot of hard work, and so I'm very appreciative of them. Let's clap for them. A big thank you, as always, to the other fine arts teachers here at the high school, our admin, and everyone who is very supportive of us and making sure that we can get out here and do awesome things with jazz and with music. We're just so happy to be able to perform for you guys. I do want to recognize one very special person on stage before we start our last piece, and he's dreading this, so I'm going to make it extra good. We have one senior in our midst who's playing his last concert with this ensemble tonight. He has been in this group 3 out of his 4 years in jazz, and I've known him since he was in 8th grade, so it's special to say, goodbye to these kids that well, I guess I've known him since he was in 6th grade, really. I don't think he knew me. I knew who he was. But I just want to say a big thank you. This student is incredible in every way. He is always funny. He is always so prepared. He's a great reader, a great musician. And you'll get to hear him play his primary instrument tonight, which you've never heard before in this exact way. And so I want to say thank you and recognize our senior that is graduating, Eli Ryden. Because I know he would not like for me to say this, Eli was also recognized last night at the Showcase of Stars for being one of the top 50 in his graduating class, which is extra cool. And now that I've upset him thoroughly, we are going to go on and introduce our last piece. This is called Sanctified Blues. This ensemble has never done a piece like this ever. It is a New Orleans style second line piece. I know it was not subtle when Wyatt Morris walked out on the stage with a sousaphone. So that is why it just seems such a shame to never do a second line piece, because Wyatt is actually a tuba player. Obviously he's phenomenal at bass trombone as well, which he does for us most of the time. But using him for his real purpose, his sousaphone playing is really, really awesome. So you'll get to hear a little bit from him. We have a lot of soloists tonight. I will tell you who they are now. First off, we have Micah Powers back there on trombone. We will have Simon Dunn up here on alto sax. I just have a special place in my heart for clarinet, so this is really fun. Whenever I wanted to do this piece, I really had an idea, because both these two right here, Anthony and Eli, are actually clarinet players. So they were like, can we do clarinet? I was like, please do clarinet. So as you can see, they're both gonna trade some fours on clarinet. You will hear from Jeremiah LaBabbit over there, who has soloed on all 3 pieces tonight, which is really awesome, over there on tenor sax. And then you'll hear from Matthew Davijashvili over here on the alto saxophone. So it's kind of a saxophone party, and Micah is also invited. So we hope you enjoy our last chart, Sanctified Blues.
I'm the director of the Top Jazz Ensemble here at Midway. We are going to be starting out tonight playing a great piece by the Beatles, written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, arranged by Bill Holman. This arrangement in particular was made a little bit more well-known because of Buddy Rich and his big band. So it kind of changes it up a little bit. It's really, really a fun piece, very loud, very short. And we're going to hear Colton Ellikin on the tenor sax and Zakai Tien on the alto sax. This is Norwegian Wood. next chart that we're going to be playing is entitled Hunting Rabbits. And this is a really fun one. It's by Gordon Goodwin. And this piece is supposed to sound like Saturday morning cartoons. It's supposed to sound like Looney Tunes. So you're going to notice we've got 3 people in the back here. Jake Espin, Colt Everett, who was playing saxophone a second ago, and Jude Turner back there. They're all going to be helping out with some percussion instruments. So there's some timpani, there's some xylophone, marimba, some hand drums. So they're going to be doing that, and you're just going to hear a lot of Bugs Bunny getting chased around pretty much, is what it sounds like, with his own little flair in there. So this is Hunting Rabbits. You're going to hear Austin Williams on trombone, Colton Elkin on tenor sax, and then all this extra percussion stuff back here. This is Hunting Rabbits by Gordon Goodwin. is always a little bit of a sad time in our year because we're all kind of coming up to our seniors, last playthrough, last concerts, last this, last that. So I would like to recognize 2 really wonderful seniors who have been in this group the whole time, both of them? Yeah, the whole time, which is awesome. So they've done all 4 years of high school in this jazz band. Both of them are trombone players, and both really, really phenomenal kids, phenomenal players, just all around really, really awesome, and have helped so much grow this program and this ensemble, and that is Hogan Aiken, bass trombone. And Drew Aguilar on tenor trombone. And I also wanted to recognize another member of the ensemble. She's been with us for, is it 2 years? 3? It's 3 years. And she's going to be moving next year. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Julie Aiken. And we're going to miss all of them so much. They really have done a lot for this ensemble and sound terrific, fantastic. Oh yeah, I was gonna do Jude too. Jude Turner back there. He's playing percussion for us. That's why I kind of forgot him. He's also a singer. But yeah, gonna miss them a lot and wish them the best. And yeah, just a lot of good memories with those kids. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna be playing a piece that does feature our trombone section. So you're gonna hear lots of trombone soli from all 4 of those guys. You're gonna hear Austin Williams on tenor trombone and Hogan Aiken on bass trombone, doing some solos and trading a little bit. And this piece is I Thought About You by Johnny Mercer, Jimmy Van Heusen, and it's arranged by Matt Neese. All right. For our next piece, we're going back to Gordon Goodwin again. He has some great ones. We're going to feature one of our saxophone players. We have a great, really, really awesome saxophone section. You notice some of the guys are doubling. We've got Aiden over here playing some flute, Kai playing some soprano sax. They're a terrific section. So earlier in the year, we featured Colton on one, and now we're going to feature Deacon Guest, and he is going to be playing The Passage on alto saxophone. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, before we play our last piece tonight, just a huge thank you to all of you who came here tonight to listen to these wonderful students play music for you. They worked really hard the last couple of months to put all of this program together for you guys. So we really appreciate you being here. I just wanted to thank the administration here at Midway. I want to thank Dale Umhofer for always being here to help put together sound and lights and all of that for us. He's our fine arts director. Also want to thank Pam Hyatt, Sara Moss, so much here at the high school, and also all of our middle school band staff for just helping bring all these kids up through jazz music and helping grow this program into what it is. Thank you guys again so much. Thank you to our wonderful band backers who support the band program, jazz program, middle school programs. If you're not a member of that, you should check it out because we always need more people in that. But again, thank you guys so much. For our last piece, we're going to be playing Spain by Chick Corea, arranged by John Barbera, sorry. And it's gonna have solos. Austin Williams on trombone, Sakai Tien again on soprano sax, Max Towers on guitar, and Elise Snyder on the drums. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful night. This is Spain. night.